Hello everyone. This webinar will now begin. My name is Chris Urbanski. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at HAHN Investment Stewards. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. We have a great presentation planned for you today. Part of our added value, I believe, as a firm is to give you tools and different ideas that can help with your business. And I'm actually very pleased to present Javed Khan. Javed is an accomplished and engaging speaker, voiceover talent, and an accredited authorized local expert for constant contact. He has presented to over 7,000 business owners and professionals, teaching the latest marketing trends and best practices. He's also the founder and president of Impression marketing service company. He specializes in helping financial planners and professionals in business development and so forth. I know that Javed will have his contact information at the end of the presentation, so if anyone's interested, please feel free to contact him. Now, before we begin the official presentation, let me give you a couple quick slides on HAHN for those of you that are not familiar with our firm. Just quickly, our firm, the culture behind our firm is client asset stewardship. That's the #1 goal. We don't, there's no smoke and mirrors, full transparency. We don't plan to, offer the best performance for everyone, but what we do offer is consistent performance with low volatility. We have the longest track record in the world doing what we do, which is portfolios, ETF portfolios in an SMA structure. In terms of 2008, 2009, the financial crisis, we did quite well. On average, our portfolios were down only 5%, and we were actually positive in 3 portfolios. We have an institutional process that's defined, very clear and open. And we're not product makers, we're investment managers. We're not tied to any company whatsoever. We have full independence in what ETFs we can utilize, and it's always for the benefit of the client. And obviously we have a rich pedigree of industry leaders. Wolford has a background at RBC, so is our CEO, Mark Arthur, and Tyler Morty is considered an ETF expert. Just quickly, in terms of our approach, we're a global macro asset mix approach. I'm not going to get into this in detail. All this information is available on our website, or if you want more information, feel free to contact myself or our team. We're tactical asset managers. We have what we call an opportunity investment strategy as well. So not only traditional investments, but we have something that's not correlated to the market, something that's we call maybe a little niche and so forth. And as I mentioned before, exchange traded funds. We only use exchange traded funds, and as of 2003, our portfolios are only ETFs, ETF based. Now, just quickly for your clients, once again, I'll just briefly go over this. We offer discretionary portfolio management, so taking your client to the next level of account supervision. Separately managed account structure, which in many cases offers benefits over a traditional pooled product. We have access to world-leading ETFs. We have a whole process of selecting the ETFs. Full transparency in terms of fee, full reporting for the client, and we try to work with the financial professional as a team for a client-centric approach. So why are we doing this presentation? As I mentioned before, our goal is to help you with your business, but there's many changes in the industry. I think you would agree. Some of the key changes, CRM2, obviously, these changes will have an impact on your business. And this report, which is on the screen, it's actually a report that was issued in June of 2014, or I'm sorry, July 2014. It's called Sound Advice. If anyone's interested, feel free to give me a quick email, send me a quick email, I'll send it to you. But it really talks about what advisors need to do in this market environment. And one of the key messages is you have to be different. There has to be a value proposition. Another report here, and this is from Deloitte report, it talks about what do you need to do in this new environment to kind of redefine your role. And obviously, as you can see on the screen, there's a number of things that should be developed in order to have an impactful practice. But two things kind of stick out: practice management and business development. And this is why Javit's here, because he's going to actually present on a great tool that can help your business. So Javit, let's begin. Thank you for being here once again. So Javit will present on campaigns that drive action. Javit, please take it away.
Great, thank you, Chris, and thanks very much for having me. I'm quite excited for this opportunity to speak to the financial planners around the around the webinar today. I've presented this session to a number of financial planners, wholesalers, investment brokers, all the way up to senior management teams, and I just wanted to make sure that we're aware that today we're not really going to be talking about marketing principles or goals or objectives. No, we're really going to be talking about what I'm calling marketing campaigns. And from my perspective, and just so that we're all on the same page, marketing campaigns are a collection of what I would suggest marketing activities that will make up an effort that's intended to drive an action that's going to lead to achieving a very specific goal for you and your audience. And today specifically, we're going to be focusing on newsletters and announcements, and I think primarily I put that under the whole bucket of communication. So I'm going to help you today with some practical best practices and some ideas that will help you connect with your audience and really separate yourself as a financial planner advisor within your community. And most importantly, find ways that you can help your client base or your audience drive action to generate some business for yourself. And I think really the most effective tool these days really is email and email marketing. So with that said, let's move forward here. Which way do we go? That way? So my contact information is on the screen, and I understand everyone will get my slide deck, so certainly if you want to connect with me after this presentation, feel free through both social and email and LinkedIn. It's all there for you. My background, just to give you a quick idea, I started probably about 15 or so years ago and was working at a number of investment firms that you'll probably recognize through the slide deck. And I primarily was involved in the marketing brand communications aspect role, whereby I was going on the road on a regular basis with wholesalers, speaking with financial planners, listening to their challenges, and finding ideas and ways that we could have helped them market themselves within the community. I did that for a number of years. Eventually, I left the financial services business, and I worked at this organization for about 3 seasons. Got my experience within sports marketing and had some great experience with the club. And about 7 years ago, I started my own marketing services company, not an agency, not a consulting firm, a full-service marketing firm. We've got about 40 or so people now on our team that we offer what we call the 4 pillars of marketing. And I'm not going to go through the details, but ultimately anything to do with your marketing services, from digital to print to web to video, that's really what we are all about. About 2 or so years ago, we decided that we wanted a software provider, a partner to help us with the digital side. So we partnered with Constant Contact based in Boston, Massachusetts. And then just shortly after that, I became the authorized local expert and solution provider for the software company. I'm one of many in Canada, and I go around to the various communities educating people on various marketing trends. So that'll kind of give you a background. Constant Contact, if you're not aware, they're really a software firm. They're based in Boston, Massachusetts, been around since 1996. Their ultimate goal is to help you as a business owner really grow, and they do that by providing a variety of software tools that are going to help you as a financial planner engage with your clients and with your prospects. That's ultimately what they are here to do. It's software. It's a software as a service. It allows you as a financial planner doing digital campaigns and ultimately seeing the behavior of what your messages get out with your clients and prospects. One of the things I wanted to talk about specifically today is email marketing, because I get a number of individuals, specifically financial planners, when I come across them, they look at me and say, you know, email marketing really hasn't done anything for me in my business. It's not as effective as I thought, and so on and so forth. And so I ask a number of questions, and there's some best practices and tips and traps that we want to go through. So for today, we're specifically going to talk about newsletters and announcements, but more importantly, I want to make sure we're on the same page when it comes to campaigns and what are they and what are newsletters, clearly, so we understand that. We also want to convert everyone on the webinar today from becoming someone who's an emailer who emails content to what I do on a regular basis with our team, and we do email marketing. The way people think and act as email marketers is very different than the way people think and act as emailers of content. I'm sure everyone's heard of the phrase, or probably says it themselves, email blasts. Well, that certainly is not a phrase we use within our team. It's really email campaigns. And I'm going to share some samples of financial planners that we're working for that have given us the authorization to show you just a little bit of what we've done for their campaigns, and showcase some of the results we've been able to help them with, taking their digital campaigns to that next level, and then certainly providing you with some next steps, right? All right, so let's move on. So for me, marketing really is a simple definition. For me, it is broken into really three separate parts. Pure marketing, as far as I'm concerned, deals with step number one, and that is defining an audience. You need to find your audience, the audience that is going to care to hear from you. And once you define your audience, so for in this case, let's say it's your client base. And let's say for argument's sake you have 100 clients or 100 family of clients. So once you define your audience in your client base, the biggest difference between emailers and email marketers is the step number two, is the ability to run a campaign, not an email blast, to run a campaign that's going to target a very specific audience. In the marketing world, we call this segmentation. So it's the ability to segment your list and then communicate to that segmented list content that they are interested in hearing from. I use a number of examples of financial planners when I speak with other financial planners, of individuals who are constantly blasting information that perhaps may not resonate with that individual on the other line of the equation. So once you've defined your audience, once you've then segmented your audience and you're ready to run a campaign, then the third and probably the most important thing is you've got to elicit a physical and measurable response with them. And for me, a physical measurable response examples are like what you've done today. You have signed up for this webinar. That was a physical measurable response that our friends at HAHN Investments asked you to do. If I send a campaign on behalf of a financial planner, another physical measurable response could be literally pick up the phone and give us a call. That's a physical measurable response because I can measure that. Another one could be read more from an article or listen to this webinar. These are elements of what I call a physical measurable response. These are things that are going to separate you from being someone who just blasts content to actually putting a campaign together and marketing through the internet. So those are the three elements. The second question that people always ask me is, well, what do you mean by campaigns? As I mentioned, it's a set of marketing activities, right? Well, for me, and just to, again, understand we're all on the same page, a campaign is really separated in two separate parts. Majority of individuals that I come across do this really well, and that is push content. Fantastic. Do some great job. You know, I've seen some great campaigns from a variety of financial planners who do a fantastic job. However, the other part of the campaign, the majority of people are missing, and that is what you're pulling of a response. What is that physical measurable response that you need to ask your audience, your targeted segmented audience, to do? Because people online who are connecting with other people online would like to be told what to do next. So if I'm sending out a really cool video and it's a one-line teaser about the video, the physical measurable response that I want someone to do is I want someone to click on that video button to go and watch the video. That allows me to pull a response. I will be able to measure through my software, Constant Contact, to see who, when, how many times, what time, what time and second did they actually pull a response for me in terms of clicking on that button. So I repeat, the pushing of content is great, fantastic. I see a lot of it. The majority of the people who are not email marketers, who are just pushing content, email content out, aren't finding that pulling of a response. So that'll give you some flavor of how to start thinking like an email marketer versus an email pusher of content. Then we go into the types of newsletters. For me, these are different types of communication tools everyone around this webinar should think about. And we do many of these campaigns with our financial planners. Not only do we do the newsletters, but we think about other things. So I'm not sure if you are or have been thinking about, or maybe have already planned your next campaign, but certainly the financial planners that we're working for, we are just in the final stages of putting together, in some cases, their campaign for Remembrance Day. We're actually, we have, in one financial planner, we've segmented the veterans, because we've asked the financial planner how well he knows his audience. Well, he's got a whole list of veterans and older individuals that he has stated to us would very much appreciate a notation of a Remembrance Day. So we're actually, and has scheduled a campaign to his targeted audience on November the 9th. And we did this about 2.5 weeks ago. So that goes to this whole thing about cards or announcements. We do campaigns regarding media releases. There are financial planners who are doing some great job within the community that we are constantly communicating with their client base, letting them know of what they're doing. So my core message here is, don't just think about your monthly newsletter. Figure out what is your campaign schedule in the variety of the various communication tools that you see in front of your screen here today. Again, becoming an email marketer. So what's the difference between being an emailer and an email marketer in terms of the execution? Well, let's talk about that. The million-dollar question that a lot of people ask is, well, this is great, Javed. Fantastic stuff you're giving me. But, buddy, I'm a financial planner. I'm very, very busy with what I do. I don't have this time. What would I even start to write about? Well, the first thing I always say to anybody across the table, look, if you don't have the time, you can certainly partner with us and we'll be able to help you with that. Obviously, you will take the lead and we'll get your blessings. But the number one thing I say to everybody is, hey, there's stuff you know that I don't know as a consumer. You know information or have access to information that I don't have access to. So why don't you write something about that? And if you don't have the time, energy, or the ability, then hire on either a team or an individual to do that for you. If you don't really want to do that, perhaps you want to do the second part. Well, you all have access to stuff that I don't have access to. You go to conferences, you go to perhaps professional development days that HAHN Investments puts together. Well, collect information from them, and if there's content there that you think is of value that you want to share with your audience, segmented audience who you think would appreciate it, share it with them. And then the third one is, it doesn't all have to be original. Use third-party information. There may be articles in the Globe and Mail, the Star, the National Post that you find is of interest, or even videos that you find is of interest. As long as you give that individual the appropriate kudos, share it. Share it with your audience. If you know the segmented audience, then you know what type of information you're going to share. I'll give you an example really quickly. There's one advisor we're working for right now. We're in the segmentation stages of his list. And the number one thing that he has asked us to do, or he wants to do, is rather than segmenting it by interest, he wants to segment it by the life stages of investment. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then we're going to find articles and content that are going to line up with those segmented lists, the accumulators, the retirees, the post-retirees, those types of individuals. He wants us to segment them. I added this one in just for today's session because I figured financial planners, they want to get some ideas, just get their brains thinking. So I thought, okay, let me share you some of the secret sauces. This is actually a slide that we use with financial planners when we start to develop campaigns, perhaps for the month of November. We'll go and we'll look at this particular slide and we'll ask them, okay, what are we going to do in terms of video? Are we going to do any video for this next campaign? Because we did one before. Or what about an article? Is it a third-party article that you've come across recently that you want to share? These are just ideas that will help you engage with your audience. It'll separate you as a financial planner really leveraging email marketing the right way from someone who's, I hate to say it, email blasting. So these are just ideas that you can think about, and I'm sure you have access to a lot of this information that you could utilize. The next question I asked not only is what should I write, but how much is enough? Well, for me, at the end of the day, less is more, and you really got to focus on your message, right? focus as much as you can on your message and offer only one thing or one thought. I find that, I'm not sure if anyone around the phone and the webinar today would like, but I find a lot of people send way too much content when they're sending out emails. The best practice, as far as I'm concerned, when you're going to send your email campaign, try to minimize it to one paragraph and a link to the article or to the video or whatever that is. If you really want to push it, go to 2 paragraphs and you're done. And then give them a link to that video article for them to learn more or to watch the video. Don't give them any more than that. I strongly recommend that. You will start to see higher engagement because people really don't, there's a lot to read, especially on mobile devices. People just don't have that time. They just will not give us that time of day. Talking about mobile, this is an American stat. The Canadian stat right now shows that close to 48% of Canadians are consuming content these days on a mobile device, be it a smartphone, be it a tablet. So please be aware. Again, this is part of that exercise that I suggested at the very beginning about defining an audience. Part of your audience definition can be with a survey that you ask, what device do you consume content on these days? And measure the types of devices that is being utilized. We are right now today finalizing a campaign for a financial planner that we know half of his client base consumes content on mobile and the other half consumes content on PC. What we do for his clients, when we send out the campaign under his name, we give him 2 options. We give him a mobile version option and a printable PC option. We want to make sure we're connecting with the right people. So just be cognizant that more and more Canadians, it's coming up to about 50% in Canada, are consuming content on their mobile device. Another quick stat that I just found out about 6 months ago is that older clients, and I say older with all respect and love, 50 or more, they're now starting consuming content on tablets, be it Samsung's, Android's, Apple. So just be cognizant that their uses of content is on consumers. So just make sure. That's why I say less is more, and really focus on your messages because of the execution tablets and devices people are using. Remember, focus on one thing at a time every time you send out a campaign. There's no marketing book or textbook that I've come across that states when you send out a communication you have to have 3 articles and 3 videos and 3 links. Nothing says that. All right? This is just an example. You'll get the slide deck. This is an example of a calendar. It's not a real live. It's just an example of sort of a calendar that we do. Pictures clearly are worth $1,000, $1 million, $1 million words. Definitely here's some best practices that you should be aware of. Certainly you have a great opportunity to leverage photography and imagery within your particular campaigns. Please do so. Again, don't over-rely too much on images. Just make sure that you are using the appropriate amount. Please make sure you are, with your images, make sure you're doing what I call the alt text practice. It's the best practice for digital communications. What that means is when you put a picture on your campaign, that includes your logo, please make sure either above or below is the name of that company or your name. Because there are systems out there that do not download images automatically. I don't know if you receive, but I get on an ongoing basis sometimes campaigns that have a white box and a big X on the top left or a big X right across the entire box. That's because my system hasn't downloaded the images automatically. If you do the alt text best practice, if I see something like that, I'll at least be able to recognize your name because there's a text, there's wording above that you've written in. Okay, so that's what that means. And we talk about that. Please remember, view your content on a mobile device. The best practice for mobile devices, if you're going to do a campaign, I'm telling you right now, the best practice is a minimum font size for a heading. If you're going to do a heading, the minimum font size for a mobile campaign should be anywhere between 20 to 22 point font. The minimum font size for the main text should at least start at 13 or 12 point or more. I would even say go to 14 point. Okay? Those are some of your best practices for the font sizes. Here's an example I wanted to show you in terms of using your images carefully, and these are individuals who perhaps didn't test out their images on their mobile devices. So if you look at the first one on the left, you'll notice that X. That's what I mean by that example. You'll notice at the top left there's a little X. Well, as a matter of fact, there's actually supposed to be an image in there. But this individual didn't use the old alt text strategy and didn't put their name of the company or their name above and below the image. So unfortunately, when I get something like this, I don't know what this is, probability is I will delete. The second one you'll notice, I would ask on this, if we were to do this face-to-face, but I asked, if you look at the second one, there's nothing wrong with the first part, but if you notice, this is an invitation. Well, usually an invitation, remember what I said at the very beginning of the webinar, you got to tell me what to do next. Well, if you would have scrolled down with your finger down, you will notice the invitations at the bottom. Well, I'm not going to see that. So if I'm doing a campaign like this, and it's going to be on a mobile device, I want to make sure my most important aspect of my campaign is at the very top. In this case, buying the tickets. And it's pretty clear the last one, the person who did this campaign clearly didn't test it on a mobile device. You'll notice basically that you can't see 3/4 of the image. It's because they set it up for a PC, right? So that's what I mean by just being careful with your images. Make sure you're using photos and images throughout. I mentioned email. There's nothing wrong at all. I'd say take advantage of it, utilizing images with some headings. That's the first example I provided you with today. Repurpose and reuse your content. We have financial planners we work for who we do some of their social stuff. That includes LinkedIn, and some of the financial planners are on Twitter. So we will repurpose and recycle content. I'll give you an example. We did one a month ago, and this gentleman had 3 tax tips. So we did the 3 tax tips via, in the middle, email campaign. But what we then did is we separated the 3 tips, and we tweeted every other day, each tip every other day. So we extended those 3 tips for the entire, basically the entire week. So that's what that means by repurpose and reusing your content. Not necessarily copy and paste, but repurpose and reuse it appropriately. All right. Now the latter part, probably the last part of becoming that emailer to becoming an email marketer is the fact of once you've figured out your target audience, once you've segmented it, once you've figured out what type of content and what's the valuable content, and are you going to add images or not, the last point here is the execution, right? That's 95% of anything. Any success rate is the execution. Do you have a actual sticky engagement factor? Well, the last part of this whole exercise as an email marketer is the fact that you got to make sure when you're sending out campaigns, and I'm sure everyone did this today before even coming on the webinar, you ask yourself now, later, or never. And I would ask, what does that mean? Well, for me, now, later, never as an email marketer are things that people are saying to themselves when they see emails coming into their inbox. I'm either going to look at that now, I'll look at that later, oh, another junk one, that's never, and I delete. And usually the ones that go from the later, who say, oh, look at that later, I could bet you 99.9% of those individuals will drop it into never. So me as an email marketer, I want to make sure my campaigns hit the now section. For us to do that, there's 3 fundamental things we need to be aware. Number 1, 3 fundamental things. Number 1, we got to make sure it's clear of who it's from. Number 2, we got to make sure that subject line is quite enticing for someone to stop, pay you the attention that you're looking for as an email marketer, and then engage. And then the third one is when are you going to be sending that campaign to them? Let me quickly break it down. When I say who it's from, make sure it's recognizable. Make sure it's a consistency name through the board. There's brand consistency and look and feel consistency, but don't forget about context consistency. And also don't forget about our friends who are now involved with the Canada anti-spam legislation. Please make sure you are connecting with people who have given you the consent to connect with. That's a whole different topic altogether. You got the 222 formula, which I call, and this is for the subject lines. The 222 formula is quite simple. The first 2 is the 2 seconds. That is the amount of time on average that someone is going to give you the time of day to engage online. So if they see your name, they see Chris's name in their inbox, they're giving Chris between 2 to 4 seconds to look at the subject line and engage. The next 2 is the first 2 words they're going to look at. They recognize Chris's name. They're going to look at the first 2 words of that subject line that is going to entice them to continue to engage. And then the third 2, which now both gives you that 222 formula, is this is basically they're saying to themselves, what are the email campaigns that I'm going to get that are going to maximize my time today? Right? So how is it going to maximize my time today? So that's the 222 formula when it comes to the subject line. By the way, best practice for subject lines If you know people are getting your campaigns on a PC or a Mac, 5 to 7 words. Don't go any longer than that, ladies and gentlemen, because it'll become a spam. The second best practice, if you definitely know people are on mobile devices, try to shrink it down between 2 to 3 words. If you notice on your mobile device, that's really the real estate you're being given on a mobile device, 2 to 3 words. So just be cognizant of that. These are some real live examples that I just want to share with you. You'll get the slide deck. I would suggest test it out yourself. Use some of these words or phrases. When to send, yes, monthly tends to be the most common. However, that could be very different in everyone's cases around the webinar. You just need to ask your client base. But I ask you, but you also got to ask yourself, when are my readers most likely to get what I want them to do in terms of an action, in terms of the timing? So I'm not going to go through this in detail, but these are some exercises, if you're at a very high level, that you can think about doing. What I would strongly just suggest, if you don't even want to do this type of exercise, just get to know go to that next campaign you're going to do, and rather than sending it out at the same time that you currently do, send it out on a date you don't, on a day that you don't, and on a time you don't. Do that and see what kind of results you get. Hopefully you're using a software tool that's going to provide that auditing tool. The next thing you want to do is the next campaign you do, send it on another date. This is called A/B testing. So test out these campaigns. This is an exercise we do, and this takes us between 2 to 3 months to actually get true, real results for the organizations and individuals we work for in terms of both times and dates. Right? The number one thing I want to make sure people are aware with this particular slide is the fact that we're not looking at the number of open rates. We're interested in the click-through rates. I'm really interested in the measurement of action. Did someone give me the time and day and do some level of a physical measurable response? Quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care if I get a 70% open rate, because all that means to me is that 70% of my audience took some time, looked at their mobile, and saw, oh, I got an email from Chris, and they moved on. That's what an open rate means. It doesn't mean they physically opened and they did something with your campaign. The click-through rate is the number one thing you're looking for as an email marketer. Because now you know that not only did they see Chris's name, they were engaged by the subject line, they read through it, and they actually did something. They hit some level of a button or a link to engage into whatever he's asking them to do. Hey, by the way, with Constant Contact as your software tool, you can see everyone who's done that. Everyone, how many times they've done it, when they did it, what time they did it, and did they actually share your campaign on their social media sites, which really is the sticking factor. Some other practical advice that you should be aware of when it comes to text links. Please make sure that you have text links over buttons. Again, people on mobile devices, it may be a little bit challenging in terms of text links versus buttons. I would suggest if you're doing a mobile device level of a campaign, you have a big button that they can click onto. 67% don't see their images by default. Remember that example where you saw the X? So please make sure you do the old alt text strategy. You've got the image, and then put the name of either the company, your name, above and beyond. And the other point is, please make sure if you are sending campaigns on a PC version of a campaign, please make sure it is anything that's important is above the scroll. Okay, that means I don't have to scroll down on your campaign. And don't give me too many options. And most importantly, test it out yourself. Right? Test it out yourself on your mobile device. All right. This latest stat just came in about 6 months ago. There was a research done, and Constant Contact was part of it. And they found that when someone sends out an email campaign, and with their email campaign, anytime someone would put a social media share button on their email campaign, they found that close to 160% more people reached out using the social share button, meaning 160% of people who had the social media button share on their campaign received 160% more engagement than the ones who didn't. Really, this means as a financial planner, if you're sending really good, valuable, engaging content, and I get information from Chris as my financial planner, and I like it, I'm going to go and push on one of these buttons and share his content on my social sites. That's reach, and that's the power of social media. If I'm sending some really cool stuff, I have now the ability to reach out to other people that I wasn't aware of that my client audience are doing, right? That's what that really means. And you have also the ability to do a simple share, which means when I send out a campaign, I can say to a software tool like Constant Contact, hey, when I send out this campaign, automatically post the same information on my social media platforms. All right, here are some examples. So this is a gentleman works at an independent dealership. We've been working for him for probably close to 3.5 years now. We do pretty much the majority of his digital and marketing campaigns. He receives on average between 50 to 65% click-through rates, not open rates. His open rates are just north of 75%. So everyone sees it, but he's receiving a very high amount of click-through rates. The majority of his client base, when we did a segmented list, are engineers, professional engineers. That's why you'll notice a lot of content on his campaign here, and he gives them the printable version because his clients stated to him it would be really nice if they could get a printable version because a lot of his clients, they travel in from either north or the west. He's based in Brampton. That's why we set it up the way we did. There's another gentleman from an organization. They've approved Constant Contact nationally. That's my understanding. We've just started working with them probably about 3-4 months ago. Already receiving some great attraction from his campaigns. For anyone who is at Hollis Wealth, I'll tell you right now, we didn't create any of this content. This is on the newsletter that they get called Wealth Builder. We just created a digital version. We get it all approved and signed by compliance. The cool thing about this for Greg is now he sees the behavior. He sees how many people are actually engaging with what type of articles, and we base the behavior and the analytics that we get for our next campaigns. This is a gentleman who I mentioned who has a lot of veterans in his client base, so we've already scheduled a campaign on November the 9th for our Remembrance Day campaign. This is just some examples. If you'll note, the first one was a strategic update, but then we just recently sent out a mobile version of a Thanksgiving note. That's a note that we got from Greg, who is the financial planner, from the first strategic update campaign he sent. So if you read that note, clearly he's now finally getting some level of, I guess, stickiness, right? And this is a gentleman we just started working with not even about a month or so ago. This is, I'm suggesting these are 3 of many financial planners, but these are the ones that I think have given us some permission to raise our success story. We just sent this out most recently with the corrections going on, received a very high rate. We found out actually one data point that we found out, which kind of we thought would go the opposite, but we found that north of 60% of the people that clicked on one of those buttons were the PC. So we thought a lot of people in his client base would be, mobile friendly. But as a matter of fact, a lot of them pushed the PC button. So that was some sort of quick learning that we got from there. All right. So I think we've gone through a lot of best practices. We've gone through a lot of things. Here's my offer to you as a partnership with HAHN Investments, and I'll leave this with you. I will literally share with you the opportunity to help you with your email marketing campaign. The offer to you, especially if you're not using any software tool, really for you, half the battle is to use the right tool. If you're interested and you want to connect with me, this is my offer to you. We'll get you started and provide you with a getting started guide. We'll get you set up with regards to your account and do some minor setups with you as advisors and partners, and then we'll do a post-analysis. So not only are we going to help you in terms of getting the right tool set up, but we're also going to help you in terms of the execution and then post-analysis. So we can help you start getting those campaigns to the right individuals. Right? Those are for individuals who are interested. So that's kind of my offer to you. By all means, feel free to give me a call or give Chris a call. I really do appreciate your time and attention. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Chris and our friends at HAHN Investments, and we hope to either hear or see you again.
Great, thank you, Javed. That's a great presentation. I definitely learned a lot, and I'm sure most of you, not all of you, learned a lot as well. Now, if anyone has any questions for Javed, please use the chat option. Just type in your question. We'll briefly wait for questions. Now, we will send this presentation out to you, If you have any questions, you can always email myself at HAHN here, which is information@hahninvest.com, and obviously we'll have Javit's contact info as well when we send out the presentation. Now I do have one question here. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, unfortunately, I'm sorry, there's no questions. So once again, thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate it. If there are any questions, I'm sure Javit will be able to answer those for you if you think about something. I'm sorry, a question just came in, so bear with me please. The question is, what is the cost per year? And I'm assuming that's for Javit. So Javit, please.
So if you're who is it, Paul? Is it Paul?
Yes.
So Paul, if you're asking in terms of cost per year for the software tool, it varies. If you there are discounts that I can offer both. If you prepay 6 months or a year in advance, there is a pretty serious discount. But usually the basic software tool that is offered is a $20 US per month investment. But again, if you prepay 6 months or a year in advance, that can be shaved quite a bit. And if you're a chamber member at some chamber, please let me know, because I can help you with some additional discounts on that. So I think that hopefully will answer your question, Paul.
Thank you, Javit. Okay, it looks like there's no more questions, so thank you once again. Thank you very much for your time. This concludes today's webinar. So thank you and have a great day.